Directions for questions 1 to 6. The passage talks about the difficulties faced by archaeologists, and also the author comes up with a solution for these difficulties. One difficulty that archaeologists face is poor funding. That is, there is very little funds are available for excavating, and even less is available for publishing the results and also preserving the sites. Now, there is one difficulty, that is poor funding. Another difficulty is illegal excavation and sale of such illegally excavated artifacts. So, that is another problem that archaeologists face. In the next paragraph, the author gives a solution to these problems. Now, the solution is that the government can sell some of the excavated artifacts. That is, they can authenticate the artifacts and they can sell them. And the archaeology department can make a certain amount of money from these sales. Also, when such authenticated artifacts are available, people would prefer to buy that rather than illegally excavated artifacts. So, such illegal activities will also decrease. So, that is the solution that the author has come up with. In the next paragraph, the author elaborates on the solution. What he says is that sell nothing that has unique artistic merit or scientific value. What he says is that in many cases there will be a large number of artifacts which are very similar. So he takes an example of one excavation in a place called Cyprus. And in that one excavation, 2000 virtually indistinguishable small jugs were found. So when you have 2000 of a particular item, many of them can be sold. It is very difficult to keep all the 2000 of them in a particular museum. So, and each particular jug is of not high value because they are all similar. They are virtually indistinguishable. So some of them can be sold. So in such cases, when you have a large number of virtually indistinguishable items, then they can be sold. That is the type of items that can be sold. He takes another example of royal seals. So in such cases, many of them can be sold. They can be authenticated and sold, and the government can make money out of these sales. Then the author talks about cataloging items in a museum. Very often when you have a large number of similar looking items, usually they are not catalogued properly. And since they are not catalogued properly, it is often very difficult to access them. So what the author says is that when artifacts are sold, they can be properly documented, they can be properly photographed, and the purchaser could also be required to agree to return the piece if it should become needed for scientific purposes. So like that, the items which are sold may be even more accessible than the ones that are not catalogued and kept in various museums. And also finally the author again says that when properly documented artifacts are sold, that will reduce the sale of illegally excavated artifacts. They will be unmarked, and people would prefer to buy an authenticated item rather than unmarked and illegally excavated items. So that is the solution that the author comes up with. So let us look at the questions now. The primary purpose of the passage is what? The primary purpose of the passage is to give a solution to the problems faced by the archaeology department. That is how to generate funds and how to prevent illegal excavation of artifacts. That is given in option B. That is a way to curb illegal digging, illegal excavation, while benefiting the archaeological profession. So that is the primary purpose of the passage. That is given in option B. The author implies that all of the following statements about similar artifacts are true, except what? So what is true has to be eliminated. A market for such artifacts already exists. That is why the author says that such items can be sold. So this is true. So A can be eliminated. There is likely to be a continuing supply of such artifacts. Yes, the author agrees to that. So B is also wrong. Museums rarely get such artifacts. That is wrong. Author says that they are very often such similar items are excavated and they are usually kept in the basements of museums. So museums rarely get such artifacts. That is wrong. So the one that is wrong is option D. Such artifacts are frequently excavated. Yes, that is why the author takes the examples of various excavations and he says that such artifacts are frequently excavated. So E is also true, so that has to be eliminated. Correct answer is option D. Which of the following is mentioned in the passage as a disadvantage of storing artifacts in museum basements? Now the disadvantage is that similar artifacts, they are often not properly catalogued. And since they are not properly catalogued, it becomes very difficult to access them. That is given in option E. Such artifacts often remain uncatalogued and thus difficult to locate. So option E is the right answer. The author mentions the excavation in Cyprus to emphasize which of the following points? He mentions about the excavation in Cyprus to say that very often in excavations you will get a large number of very similarly looking artifacts. That is, in Cyprus they found 2000 jugs which are very similar to each other. So that is very common. That is, a large number of similar looking items will be found at a particular site. So that is why he takes the example of the excavation in Cyprus. That is given in option C. He takes the example of Cyprus to say artifacts that are not uniquely valuable. That is, you have 2000 similar looking jugs and therefore could be sold or available in large quantities. So it is to take an example of this that he talks about the excavation in Cyprus. Hence option C is the right answer. The author's argument concerning the effect of the official sale of authentic artifacts on illegal excavations is based on which of the following assumptions? The author says that if properly authenticated artifacts are sold, people would prefer to buy that, and like that the sale of illegally excavated artifacts will reduce. So his assumption is that prospective purchasers would prefer to buy authenticated artifacts rather than illegally excavated artifacts. That is the basic assumption. Hence A is the right answer. The author anticipates which of the following initial objections to the adoption of his proposal. So he anticipates certain objections, and the initial objection that he identifies is that people may say that excavated artifacts should be displayed in museums rather than being sold to the highest bidder. So this is what many people will say, and that is the opposition that he thinks will happen. So that is given in option C. Artifacts that would have been displayed in public places will be sold to private collectors. So some people will think like this and they'll object to the proposal made by the author. So the objection that he foresees is given in option C.